I'm Kraeger. Over the last 3 weeks, I've shown you different watercolor and drawing techniques to help you create an illustrated journal. Today, I will take some of those drawings and add headlines and the story of the page or the body text and the date to create finished journal pages. Most of us don't have design training, but all of us can train our eyes to see what design we like. When you thumb through a magazine, notice how the pages are designed. You can also look at other people's journals online. As you are looking, notice how pages are balanced. How is color used? What elements of the pages are aligned? Is there repetition in the elements? Which pages speak to you? What do you like about these pages? And can you use these design elements in your own pages? My journal pages usually start with a drawing. Something will strike me as interesting and I will sketch it. Then I will design my page around that drawing. But there is no right way or wrong way to make an illustrated journal. The things I'm going to show you today are just ideas for you to use on your own pages. I want to stress that it is not important to have the perfectly designed page in your journal. It is much more important that you fill your pages or books and not worry about making them perfect. My pages generally consist of about 4 parts: the drawing, a headline, and something I wrote about the drawing or the day. I try and include the date because I think I'll remember when something happened, but I never do. If I've started with a pen and ink drawing, I can thicken up some of the ink lines to give it some visual interest. And another trick that I'll often do, which is a fun way to add some dynamic interest to a page, is to draw a box around my drawing, and I'll leave bits of the drawing poking out of the box. This is a designer's trick that adds interest and also gives me something fun to color. Next, I'll add a headline. There's lots of different ways to do this, but a simple way is just to print with uppercase. This is a sans serif without thingies, technical term, but we can add those thingies for a little more visual interest just by touching up the end points on the letters. Can accentuate some of my descenders and ascenders, like on the F's there. And then the other thing I like to do is do some unusual characters, like the eyeglass G. It's always a fun G. And I'm thickening up the lines as I draw my G. I'm making it look more like type. You can also make an A. Different type fonts have different characters, and the A is a fun one to do like this, with a little dot on the top, as opposed to the regular A, the kindergarten type A that you learn how to draw in kindergarten. But you can make that one interesting too by making short and fat. You can also do what I call fake calligraphy. And on your downstrokes, you can thicken those up and color them in. It's a fun way to add some thick and thin lines. Another thing I'll do is print out a sheet from my computer with typefaces I like, and then I'll just copy them. So I'm copying the T from the lower alphabet there. I print upper and lower case. And I'm just looking at it. It won't be perfect, but I can get a general idea of what the letters look like. There's a lowercase r. And I've made some guidelines with my my little dotted line machine, the drywall tape. I've printed and cut my type sample sheet the same size as my journal so I can carry it with me, just fold it up inside the journal. Makes it handy when I want to do a headline and need something to look at. I'll add a few more things using my drywall tape and do another T here and the R. And the R on this particular character is interesting because there's a little gap at the top. So I'm just trying to represent that gap at the top. It's just fun to try and copy different typefaces. I'm going to write the word machine down at the bottom there in lowercase because the trees were made with my tree machines. Just carefully going slow and trying to make my letters look like the printed type examples. Next, I'll show you some ways to add the date to your pages. There is the tried and true method of writing the month /day/year, but you can just add a box around it and now you'll have something to color. A friend of mine worked for an industrial designer and he showed her some cool date writing techniques. To make sure that the year fits when you do it this way, I add the first number, then the last number, and fill in the middle part last. Especially if I am writing out the month, which makes it really long in the case of September. I will add first the 2, then the 4, and then I can fill in the rest. Just adding some color on the dates adds great design elements to our pages. When I write the story or body text on a page, I try and keep my lines as close together as I can. I also use uppercase, so the text becomes a design element on the page. I can use 2 columns if I like that look. I start by putting down straight-ish guidelines, and then I divide the area in half, with lines showing me where to start and stop my columns. The hardest part about this is thinking of words that fit in the space I have and still be able to tell the story I want to tell. When I'm finished writing, I erase my lines, and it looks like I planned this whole page. Amazing. Another fun way to write text on a page is to write around your images. The only hard part about this is sometimes you have to write upside down. But I guess if you're not doing it for a camera, you could turn the page and it would be easier. I have shown you some techniques to add design touches to your drawings and create headlines. I have explored different ways to write the text of any story you want to go with your images, and I've shown you a few different ways to make the dates stand out on your pages. Now, I will put them all together on one page using some design principles. I'm going to align my date box to the edge of the box around my dog. I'll pencil in a guideline so that I'll be able to line everything up on both sides of my dog box. Now I will make some guidelines at the top of my page for my headline. I'll make a bottom guideline for my body text and a bottom guideline for my headline, and now I'll make a side guideline so that everything will be lined up on both sides, left and right. I'll also make a guideline at the bottom of the page using my index finger against the edge of the paper to make an even straight line all the way. Now I have guidelines all the way around my page so that I know that I can align everything where I want it to be. Now I'm going to think about balance on the page. In order to balance that date box down at the bottom, I think I'll make an initial cap. And because the date is in a box, I'm going to make a box for my initial cap letter. And because that's a dog, I will make the letter a D. I'll thicken up my box just a little bit, but that should balance that date box. I have also repeated using the boxes, so I have used a little repetition in my design. Now I'll write my headline in my area that I've assigned for it, but I need to make sure that it's going to line up on the right side of the page. So I start writing it in with pen, but then I figure I better pencil it in to make sure it will fit and I won't have it hanging out the end, ruining my alignment. Another way to keep it from hanging off the end is to start writing it with my pen from the right margin. Then I can fit everything in. I'll add some thickness to my headline that I got to fit in the right space, and then I'll start adding my text, the story of my dog from the toy box. I think I need to add a little text to the bottom of the page to balance my toy box story here. So I'll write at the bottom a little bit about my own corgi dog, Gus. And now I will start adding some color to unify this page. I'll make sure I repeat the green in other areas of the page, like on my date box and my initial cap. I'll add a last watercolor wash on my corgi. He isn't red, but I have picked up some of that red color to repeat in his fur. I've balanced my page with these two boxes, and I've balanced my text top and bottom. I've made sure that both sides of my page align to the box I popped out around the dog. I've tried to unify the page by repeating the colors on the page. The red and green are complementary colors, but repeating the green, and then repeating the red around the date box. This page looks finished to me. Now I'll show you how I finished some of the other pages I started. On the journal page I cut the viewfinder out of, I will write a headline for the drawing of the table I did using the viewfinder. I'm spacing out my word table and adding a few graphic dots in between the words, and then I'll thicken up my lines on the letters table. I'll add the date, and then I will put some verbiage on the bottom of the page, but I want to make sure that the flap won't cover up something important, so I made a mark there. I'll write just a little about the table, and when I'm completely finished, I'll erase all my pencil lines. My next page is the drawing I did of the fountain using the viewfinder. I'm going to add the date at the top of the page, and I'll tuck it behind the mint plant. It's amazing that you'll still be able to read that it says September, even though you can't see part of the word. When I add 2014, I start from the right side of the margin so it will fit. I added a headline with a nib pen using some red watercolor, and when I'm finished and I'm sure everything is dry, I will erase my pencil lines. My next page is the page I traced directly on the window, and look, it's upside down. Somehow I made a mistake while holding my book up to the window. Oh well, I'll just put the headline and call it upside down. I'm using a different weight nib pen for this headline. I will finish the headline, add some more text, and then, as with all mistakes, I can just turn the page and move on with my life. I'll add a headline to the page I drew on the plastic in the garden by using my drywall tape to give myself some guidelines, penciling in my headline, and then I will start inking it. I'll thicken up my letters so it's a little heavier weight, the word garden, and then I'll figure out where I want to add the date. Should it balance over here? I think if I put it here it will balance the height of the tomato pages. So I'll add the date, erase my guidelines. I don't think this page needs any story, so with the date added, it's finished. These are some of the single pages from the 200 series watercolor paper. And this is the larger, one of the larger journals. And then back to the size that fits in my purse. Just a quick flip through the books so that you can see what I have drawn. And there's my last page that I finished, and I have extra pages. I better get out my supplies to fill them up. This is what I carry in my purse at all times. My journal and my bag of goodies. And in the bag are my watercolor palette and my permanent pens. I have a few different sizes. I also have a white permanent pen. My pencil. Oh, there's another finer pen. My water brush and an eraser. Well, I have all my stuff and I have those blank pages to fill, so I guess I'll go out and fill them. Thanks for joining me. I've had a great time with these sessions. I'm looking forward to seeing what you create with the techniques I've shown you, and I'm sure you'll show me some techniques I haven't even thought of yet. I'm excited about getting a peek into your lives through your journal pages, so please post them. Thanks again for joining me. Happy journaling.